What's going on, guys, gals, and gamers? My name is OOTIKTAKOO, and welcome back to another video. Now, there are some things I'm going to talk about. If you don't want to hear them, skip to this timestamp for just the build details. But before you click that, there are some things I'm going to mention here about the build as well, and about the video. So let's jump into it. Today's video is our first foray into Pyromancy. I decided that for leveling, until I got the proper gear that I wanted to, make a firepower build. Something to note, all of the videos, not all of them, but the vast majority of videos that I've looked up about a firepower Pyromancer, mine is different. There's some perks within the skill tree that everybody grabs that you don't need to, and it allows you to move your perks elsewhere and gain a ton of extra damage. That's one. Number two is part of the reason I haven't brought this video to you is because I have a permanent one-shot bug on my character. I cannot seem to get rid of it, and playing solos is nigh impossible. So all of the footage you're going to see is from duos and trios. However, that one-shot bug should be fixed tomorrow on the 20th. Hopefully it is, because once it is fixed, this build will clear things so friggin' fast. And even if there are faster clears, this build is super cheap. You can get away with building using any weapon, technically, and just a few tweaks here and there. You have ammo sustain, you do a ton of damage, you have amazing crowd control effects. It's a really good build to get you through the vast majority of the game and to clear CT-15s in record speeds. We're talking front lines in like 6 minutes. So the build is really, really good. I just wanted to mention a few things about it. Hopefully you watch this part. In case you run around getting one shot, you now know that there's a bug and why the footage is what it is. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. This is our best damn firepower pyro build. Let's get into it. I think the best place to start on this build, because a lot of people who may be watching this video are Devastator mains, are the skills and exactly what they do. Specifically volcanic rounds, but Ash Blast and Feed the Flames helps as well. But let's start with volcanic rounds. Volcanic rounds is something that most other builds have, except Devastators, that enhances your bullets per se. The thing about this is that the aura that they put on enemies next to the enemy you're shooting is probably a little larger, but just so you know, the enemy you're hitting, any enemy near them will catch on fire as well. That's number one. We're going to use that to our advantage in the skill tree. Secondly, we're going to talk about how it ignores all armor. All armor. If you have volcanic rounds up, you do not need any armor piercing whatsoever. It says it in the skill list, it says it right here, but I feel like based on the footage that I've seen and other builds that came out earlier when the game dropped, people didn't really realize this. So there are a few things that you may have on your Pyromancer build if you're trying a firepower build that you just don't need, and it allows us to move a lot of perks and skill points into different places that really ramps up our damage. After volcanic rounds, the next two skills are for two reasons. Ash Blast is to just help crowd control the enemies, and we do bonus damage to ashed targets. You're gonna be kind of squishy here regardless, and you're really good at single target damage. Your AoE is a bit lacking. Ash Blast allows you to freeze everything and one tap them as you're going along. This is different than the Devastator firepower build because he has zero crowd control. So at least here you can set up your own kills. Feed the Flames is an interrupt. It puts Ash on them as well, and that gives us bonus damage. And two perks that we bring allow us to get 99% of our ammo back on our gun, so we can keep volcanic rounds as long as possible. So those are the skills you're using and why, and this is the class tree. Now, like I said earlier in the video, a lot of the older guides and things have a few points in weird places. Like, most of the ones that I saw, a lot of them had blood boil and they grabbed these armor pierces. But the biggest misgrievance that I noticed was grabbing this. Armor melting increases your armor piercing against marked targets by 30%. You do not need this. I've tested it multiple times and you do not gain any bonus damage from this perk whatsoever as long as you have your volcanic rounds up. Since the entire idea of the build is to keep your volcanic rounds up, you get to save 2 skill points and place them down here, or I'm going to show you a different kind of build as well. So that is something to note. So our entire skill tree is pretty simple. We're looking for as much weapon damage and bonus damage to ash and burn, stuff like that, as we can get. But let's talk about the important ones that are necessary for the build. We have 20% assault weapon damage here. You can use this if you're using an assault rifle. Your other options is a sniper, which is something I might try really soon. So if this video does well, be on the lookout for that one coming soon. Then we just go down here. We do not need the resistance piercing. Our abilities don't do really any damage anyway, so that's out of the thing. Like I said, we don't need the armor piercing at all. And then down here, this perk is super important. Every time ash is afflicted on an enemy, both of our abilities do ash. Vulnerable status is inflicted as well. So now we have a free vulnerability on everything that we do. Then over here, we do more damage to elites. They do a little less to us. We get a quicker reload speed right here. This is just cooldown reduction for our Ash Blast and our Feed the Flames, both things that need to be as short as cooldowns as possible. And then lastly, we have Burning Situation, which whenever we activate one of these, we get 45% extra damage. Now, something else to note is since you're saving these 2 points, you get to come down here and grab Incinerate. The moment burn ends, so your bullets automatically burn everything, plus they have an AoE burn, plus the gun we're using burns as well. As soon as it ends, they inflict ash. Once they become ashed, you get vulnerable bullets, or they become vulnerable. It's a really nice complementary skill chain. It's beautiful. I love it. Then next, we're coming down here for Extinction, which is just bonus 20% damage for enemies 30% lower health. Our cooldowns real quick are 22 seconds, 15.4, and 9.2. That's important because once we get into the gear. So let's talk about the weapons. I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible. We are using an Inferno Seed. This one's very lucky at 97.9. This is actually the highest rolled weapon I've had drop in the entire game, minus the 99.4s that we got through the restoration. The reason we're using this is because it comes with crit damage, long range damage, and status power. The status power I wish was weapon life leech, but it is what it is. It comes with Wrath of Moloch, which applies a burn and an AoE, which is both very beneficial to this build. In fact, you hit very hard on this build, but your AoE is decent. It's not terrible, but it's decent. Then we have Dark Sacrifice in the build as well, which, as you guys should know, this is the highest DPS mod in the game. Use it. It's amazing. If you don't have it, use Killing Spree in this spot. Speaking of Killing Spree, our secondary weapon and the weapon I used on maps with beasts on them is my Amber Vault. Having only 30 rounds in a magazine and the way we keep our ammo up is very dicey sometimes. And having an extra 30 bullets in this gun is a lot easier to keep our ammo up. Specifically on beast maps because it's so hard to consistently crit. So this is the second one that I use, and it absolutely shreds. Killing Spree and Dark Sacrifice combined is crazy. However, if you're still having an issue with keeping your ammo sustain up, you can use a Lucky Jinx with Dark Sacrifice because it comes with ultimate toxic bullets, and then use the 40% magazine returned when you kill an enemy with toxic applied. Stick that in your build somewhere, one of the armor slots, and you'll never run out of ammo. It's quite good. So that's the weapons. That's why we're using them. Let's talk about the armor really fast. First, before we get into that, let's just talk about the white passive perks that you are looking for specifically. Technically, this is the best firepower rolls you can get. Bonus firepower, close range damage, long range damage. However, in my opinion, you should do bonus firepower, close range damage, cooldown reduction, or bonus firepower, long range damage, cooldown reduction. Having our skills up, especially in solo play, more often is much better than the extra 10, 15, 20% extra damage you're going to get anyway. We're one-shotting to 5-shotting all bosses and enemies in the game, so the extra little bonus damage here and there isn't really worth it. So in my opinion, if you're playing solo, look for cooldown reduction plus a close and or long range damage. So we have a Sergio's Beret here with Sharp Eye and Captain Hunter. You guys know what those perks do by now. We have Bullet Absorption and Reforging Bullets. This is probably the key piece to the entire build. Bullet Absorption gives us 33% of our ammo back. That doesn't sound like a lot, but we'll get to it in a second. Reforging Bullets allows us to crit enemies, and as long as they are burning, which is all the time, we do not lose ammo that way either. Both of these perks combine to keep our ammo sustain up to a decent degree, but it's going to change in just 1 second once we get to the next one. Then we have volcanic rounds. In case we do mess up, we do have an extra usage of volcanic rounds, which is really nice. Then we have protection of the flames here. You don't need this. If you want to be a full glass cannon, put another DPS mod here. Feel free to do so. I'm using this because my character gets one shot constantly. This gives us 66,000 armor, putting us at 119,000 as long as it's fully stacked, which it always is because it lasts 15 seconds, and it gives us 30% resistances as well. This is an absolute nutty perk for what it is. Honestly, getting resistance and 60k armor is unheard of. If you were to add on a damage absorber, you would be at over 100k armor and 40% resistances, almost capped on both. Then let's move over to our gloves, and this is the big boy play here. Flame Grasper allows us to grab 3 targets total, so 2 more, from the Feed the Flames ability. This comes on the Reforged Pants. What this really does is 2 things. It allows us to heal basically instantly to full health. It applies Ash, and it gives us 99% of our ammo back. So just keep that in mind. That's why we're able to do stuff like this. These 2 perks combined for a ton of ammo sustain plus health. Then we have Bullet Kindling here, which gives us 20% more burn damage. And lastly, Bloodlust and Ashen Boost. These all combine to really, really work with your build. And in fact, I think Pyromancer, I haven't really dove into Techno or Trickster, but I feel like Pyro has the most cohesive build tree and perks you can pick in the entire game. Almost as if Pyromancer was the first character they made and they had to rush on the last 3. It's just my opinion. I don't know. But that is the Pyromancer build, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I cannot wait for this patch tomorrow and the one-shot bugs to be fixed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. TikTak out.